Hey team, I just opened a couple pull requests demoing starting point context, linked data context, and a JSON schema. They're over here. So that's the context, which I made first. There's a reason for that. Then I'm referring it from the schema and the sample, and that's why the CI is failing, is because this hasn't been merged yet. So that'll be fine. Let's start with the schema, and I'll just show you what a schema can be used for. I'm gonna copy this. We'll look at it a little bit. And first example is to generate a form from the JSON schema, which is something you typically can do. I'm gonna add it in here. This is just some random online form. I haven't used it before. We can see here that the schema defines there's a title, description, some properties that it can have and must have. So it must have a context. It must have a type. So these are linked data pieces that we'll come back to in a second. Must have some verifiable credential elements, ID, schema, valid from, valid to, an issuer, and credential subject. Those of you who know verifiable credentials would recognize those terms. And down here in the credential subject, you have the elements that actually make up the business content of the product passport. Product, the model name, guarantee of origin, which must be a reference URI, so on and so forth. Let's try this and see what it looks like when we render a form out of it. Here's the context. Those are defaulted to those values. The schema could also have been defaulted, but here it must have this value. Valid from is a date time, so we get this kind of thing. Let's say it's valid from last Monday. Issuer must be a URI as well, so let's just give it a did. Let's just say that would be mine. It's not, but it could be. And there, my name as the issuer. And then down in the product, you can see here that there's it must be a product type, and it's a surfboard. The guarantee of origin should refer to another credential. So if I just go blah here, it will not match with the type URI. So it must be HTTPS and then blah.com, whatever. Then it works. So that must be a URI. So those are the things you can do to generate these sorts of web forms directly from a schema. We just copy pasted it in here. Similar, you typically use such schemas in API definitions. So defining the payloads that either go in the request or the response to a server. For example, you have orders and customers in the normal pet shop example. So if we take the example again, no, you know what? I'm going to take the YAML version of it, which is the same. It's also on the markdown. There's YAML, and all I did was I gave it 3 indents. And we can put that in here. So now alongside order and customer, we can have, and I just need to give it a how is it? UNTP DPP. And now down here in the schemas, you can use the UNTP DPP with its product, model name, guarantee of origin. So put that in your API routes. The final thing that schemas are good for are validating data. So here we've added this, or I added the schema here ahead of time. And we can just take this sample. Let's copy this in. Copy. Paste. And this, oops. That can't be true. I must have made a mistake. Let's try again. Copy. Paste. There we go. So now we can confirm that the shape of the instance matches the shape of the schema. And for example, if we made a typo with name, it would call that out and say you must provide a name. And that's useful both on the issuer or the sender as well as the verifier or receiver, that you can confirm that this payload has all the pieces that that are mandatory and follows the right structure, so on and so forth. And importantly, part of that structure are these elements, the linked data elements. So that kind of takes us into the second step of this, the linked data part of this demo. Because the schema, and you can see here, if we change this context, it fails. It says you must use these two particular contexts to define a valid DPP. And that's a powerful way of making sure that the schema turns all valid instances into also the right valid linked data graphs. So if we take a copy of this now and put it into the linked data playground, this is going to fail because this context doesn't exist yet. We haven't merged my pull request. Let's, instead of having this in here, let's just take it out. This now works, and you will get a lot of these issue dependent term definitions with add vocab. We're going to ignore that, and instead we'll just inline or copy the content of the context directly into the payload here. So we'll do that by going to the other pull request here. No, you know what? I'll just grab it from my branch here. So we'll copy this, and we can copy that in there. Now we should be able to see some of these definitions that we did. So for example, in material provenance, there should be a reference to the UN vocabulary. So let's see if we can find that here, this thing. So now we know that this blank note is of type hazardous material, not just hazardous as a string, but an actual definition of what does hazardous material mean. So that's the power of semantics overlay with linked data. I think we should be able to also do this a little clever, just referencing my raw. Let's see if I can make this work. If we take this, if we just reference the value inside, yeah, that works also. This is just my this is my branch. So it's not the right context. It would fail on the schema, but it's just to show you a referenced version of the same thing. Here's the applicable hazardous material again. Right, and by that we've come full circle. The schema ensures that any payload conforms not just to the business structure, but also conforms to the linked data structures that we put in place. And obviously it points to the context that we manage. So yeah, that's sort of full circle. Okay, I hope this clarifies my two pull requests, and I look forward to progressing this and obviously expanding it with all the other terms and for all the other credentials as well, not just the DPP one. Cheers.